Number 10. Salem 7. The Salem 7 is a group of magic users and magical children who are the direct offspring of Nicholas Scratch, Agatha Harkness's son. Although they aren't children while they're on the team. They were children once though, weren't we all? They were each fathered by different mothers, and the Ultimate Universe version of them has the added ability of being able to join together in one form and become the Dragon of Seven. In that universe and that form, they end up fighting against the Fantastic Four despite initially appearing to be a superhero team themselves in that incarnation. The Salem 7 in the 616 universe, however, were a team assembled by their father and used to get revenge on his own mother, Agatha, and their grandmother for leaving the magical community of New Salem, and for her giving up their magical secrets to the Fantastic Four, a crime Nicholas Scratch falsely accused his mother of. On Earth 616, the team is made up of the members of Bruticus, Hydron, Gazelle, Reptilla, Thorn, Vertigo, and Vacuum, a combination of Nicholas's sons and his daughters. Number 9. Elsa Bloodstone. Elsa isn't exactly a witch, but she's definitely witch adjacent, as a good amount of her power is magical in nature, coming from the blood gem she possesses, and is often shown wearing in her bloodstone choker. Aside from that, Elsa will also sometimes carry and wield magical artifacts and books as weapons, in addition to her standard fare of very large guns, which is what you'll usually see her fighting with. Her blood gem gives her magical abilities to heal, cure vampirism, and even allows her to fire magical energy blasts from her hands at times. Number 8. Calypso. Calypso was Kraven's voodoo priestess ally who would often help to fuel his hatred for Spider-Man. A Spider-Man villain herself, she also almost succeeded in killing Spider-Man once while teamed up with another famous Spider-Man villain, the Lizard. Obsessed with power, Calypso also ruthlessly sacrificed her younger sister to get more of it. Her other aliases that she was sometimes referred to as in the comics are the Witch and Hunter of Souls, revealing just how dangerous and magical she is. Calypso made only a few appearances before she appeared to meet her grisly end in the late 90s. Her power usually came from her knowledge of voodoo practices, which allowed her to create potent charms and potions that she could use to bewitch others, and even resurrect the dead. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. It really does help us out here at the channel. Number 7. Pixie. Megan Gwyn is the mutant known as Pixie. Pixie has innate magical abilities, but also possesses a certain amount of dark magical ability as well. Megan received the dark magic within her after magic in her Dark Child persona attempted to use Pixie's soul, one of the most innocent and pure of her victims at the time, to create a new soul sword. The process, fortunately, was interrupted before it could be completed, instead granting Pixie her own magical soul dagger and leaving a bit of black magic within her in place of the part of her soul that was displaced and used to create that dagger in the process. Pixie has received some tutelage in the mystical arts from Amanda Sefton and Doctor Strange, and was even at one point considered as a potential candidate for the role of Sorcerer Supreme. True story. Number 6. Talisman. Elizabeth II Youngman is the daughter of Dr. Michael II Youngman, aka the hero and mystical healer Shaman, known for his affiliation with Alpha Flight. In time, Elizabeth herself would also join the Alpha Flight team alongside her father. Prior to that, however, for many years Elizabeth was actually estranged from her father, following the death of her mother, which she blamed him for. Being a doctor, Michael had tried desperately to save his wife's life, but ultimately he failed. He also would carry the guilt of her death, blaming himself besides. Liz wields the Talisman of Power, which grants her many mystical abilities, though even without the talisman, she can still manipulate magical energy that is directed at her. With the talisman, Elizabeth can cast all manner of spells, having access to the wealth of Earth's vast mystical energies, and being able to tap directly into that energy to use it as her own source for casting. Number 5. Clea. Clea is known for being the student and lover of Doctor Strange. She is the daughter of the strange villain Umar and the niece of powerful villain Dormammu. Although she appears human, she herself is related to the Faltine race, beings of pure magical energy, and the Muruks. I don't know how to say that. Muruks? Muruks? Two U's. How do you say two U's together? and the Maruks, extra-dimensional beings gifted in magic who hail from the Dark Dimension. Clea is the Sorceress Supreme of the Dark Dimension, which tells you just the level of magic we are talking about when it comes to her abilities. It's believed that she is at the same level as Doctor Strange when it comes to what she's capable of. We've seen her cast magical bolts of lightning, teleport, control other people's minds, create powerful and realistic illusions, summon objects, and exhibit telekinetic powers. Number 4. Satana. Satana is the sister of Damon Hellstrom and daughter of Satan, or so the rumor goes. Of course, we don't really know for sure if her and Damon's father is the true devil, as a lot of powerful demonic beings in the Marvel Universe have made such claims before. Even as a little girl, Satana was drawn to the arcane arts. She was caught performing a black magic ritual with her father at a young age, and it was this revelation as to her husband's true identity and form that drove Satana's mother insane, because she kind of stumbled upon them doing that ritual and then she was like, oh dear. Satana is a succubus and as such possesses great magical abilities and beauty, but beyond that she also seems to demonstrate some knowledge of magic, which allows her to cast spells, summon creatures, and manipulate the mind and will of others. In a fight against the powerful magic user Dr. Doom even, she proved to be a formidable foe. Number 3. Celine Gallio. Celine Gallio has the added bonus of years of experience when it comes to her own knowledge in the dark arts. During ancient times, she was revered by other powerful magic users and even caused a sense of trepidation among them for what she might do or be capable of. The only thing with Celine is that she has so many mutant abilities and is considered so powerful in that realm as well. It's kind of hard to tell which feats are owed to her magical abilities and which are accomplished through her use of her mutant powers. Regardless, her being a member of the mutant external group, not to be confused with Eternals, that's a different thing, means that she also has added power, causing her to be a powerful psychic vampire capable of draining life from even the most powerful of foes, a powerful telekinetic and telepath, and making her virtually immortal in most cases. At the same time that Pixie was considered as a potential candidate for Sorceress Supreme, so was Celine. Number 2. Karnilla. Among Asgardians, and definitely among Nornheim Asgardians, Karnilla is one of the most powerful magic users around. Her power is only said to be surpassed by Odin himself. Karnilla's age and origins are a mystery. That is just how old she's believed to be. We don't know how long she lived in the Asgardian province of Nornheim, only that it seems as though she had been there forever. More recently in the comics, Karnilla took up the title of Queen of Hell when she married Hela, adding that to her long list of titles, which has also included Mistress of Magic, Queen of Enchantment, Enchantress Supreme, and Queen of Norns. Not only does she have extensive knowledge of spells and the arcane, but she also has innate magical ability, which allows her to manipulate magical energy on another level in comparison to others. Number 1. Opal Luna Saturnine. Don't let her similar appearance to Emma Frost in the Ten of Swords event fool you. Saturnine is a powerhouse all of her own, completely separate from the White Queen. Instead, Saturnine's aliases and titles include the Most Majestic Omniversal Magistrix, Her Royal Highness, and the White Witch. Recently, Opal Luna Saturnine was the one to preside over the Otherworld tournament, pitting the mutants of Krakoa against the mutants of Arakko, in a battle that would determine who should win the rights to the mutant nation of Earth, with both mutant groups having a solid claim to Krakoa. Saturnine possesses immense power in her role as Omniversal Guardian, granting her ability to warp and shape reality at her will, as demonstrated throughout the Ten of Swords event. She is mortal, but is so skilled in manipulation that she could twist your perspective to the point that you would no longer see the point in attempting to kill her. We saw that happen with Wolverine, and it was pretty scary. Number 10. Damon Hellstrom. While Damon Hellstrom is not one of the most powerful of the most powerful wizards in the Marvel Universe, since obviously he's our 10 spot, and is often considered as being more supernatural than magical in origin, he does have access to immense power through his lineage. Damon Hellstrom, or Hellstorm, depending on his mood and his dominant persona, is believed to be the son of Satan and as such is a Prince of Hell, or the Prince of Hell, depending on what you believe. In reality, he more likely ends up as a ruler of a Hell dimension as opposed to the Hell dimension, as Nightcrawler and Magic are also supernatural and magical mutant based characters who are also tied to their own different Hell dimensions. Basically, there's a lot of Hell dimensions, so yes. While Damon has access to immense magical power, he ranked lower on this list because he doesn't have as much training with kinda how to use it, and actually is often pictured as actively fighting to resist utilizing his inheritance and the magical power that comes with it. Number 9. Belasco. Some may think of Belasco as more of a demon or like a creature than a human wizard, but before he became one of the lords of hell and ruler of the dimension known as Limbo, he was a sorcerer himself. He ended up using dark magic to gain immortality and his demonic appearance, as well as the ability to move into other dimensions. He made a deal with those referred to as elder gods, though they may have actually been interdimensional demons or hell lords themselves, and not actual elder gods. In the end, he became a powerful magical user and of course a demon who would go on to kidnap and train the young mutant Magic. He also was a big creep, and Magic would end up escaping and later defeating Belasco, but he also was one of the people who helped to train her, so hey, there's that. Magic is pretty powerful, so part of that I think comes from Belasco, even though that's super traumatic I'm sure for her to go back to. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it and you want to learn more about all of the cool magical stuff in Marvel. Number 8. Ancient One. The Ancient One is of course notable in both the main continuity of Earth 616 and the Marvel Cinematic Universe for being a powerful magic user. While in the MCU, the Ancient One is played by a woman with ties to ancient Gaelic magical energies, in the comics the Ancient One is also known by the name Yao and is an elderly Tibetan man. He was the Sorcerer Supreme before Doctor Strange and as such could be considered less powerful than his pupil as it currently stands now in the comics. I mean, Doctor Strange I think is definitely more powerful than him now because I'm pretty sure Yao is dead, although I think he still does make appearances from time to time. He's still got like magical energies around. You know how it is when you're a magic user and you die but you still kind of exist, you know what I'm talking about. Though for a good many years it was also Stephen Strange who stood in amazement of his master and teacher, the Ancient One, his powers, and his abilities. Number 7. Baron Mordo. Baron Mordo is one of the most powerful dark magic wizards around. He's often known for being one of the main arch enemies of Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we were introduced to him in the film Doctor Strange, where we saw him first introduced as an ally to our hero, who later became jealous of Strange's power and ultimately believed that there were too many magic users out there abusing that power who needed to be stopped, turning him into a future antagonist who we can expect to see pop up at some point, I assume, in the sequel film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In the comics, Baron Mordo, or Karl Mordo's goal is much more inherently sinister. He seeks to dominate and conquer the world with his dark magic after the death of his father at the hands of his mother and grandfather. He took his father's goal to the next level, by the way. His dad had desired to return Transylvania, his homeland, to its former glory, but Baron Mordo wants more than just that. He wants the whole world and as much power as possible. Number 6. Loki. There was a time in comics where Loki was believed to be even more powerful than Doctor Strange when it came to his power levels, and that was during his brief stint as Sorcerer Supreme in Jason Aaron's run. Of course, it would later be revealed that Loki used tricks to convince Strange to give up the title and all of his artifacts with it, but still, fans of the character were ready to cheer on the new Sorcerer Supreme, even if it was only temporary. Beyond that, Loki has always been recognized as one of the most powerful magical forces in the Marvel Universe, capable of pulling off all kinds of elaborate tricks and illusions to get what he wants, and sometimes even just to mess with people. My favorite is when he doesn't really want anything. He's like, I just wanted to mess with you, it's fun. Number 5. Wiccan. Wiccan is the reincarnated son of Scarlet Witch, and obviously because of that has immense power. Many anticipate that in the future we could see him take over as Sorcerer Supreme, and likely even exceed the potential of Doctor Strange's magical abilities, becoming an even more powerful magic user than his predecessor. Fun fact actually, did you know that every Sorcerer Supreme successor is believed to be more powerful than those to have come before them? The only problem with Billy is that he could still use more training and experience, but every year that he continues to adventure out in the world of comics is another step closer to becoming possibly the new Sorcerer Supreme. His powers are similar to his mother's. He can warp reality like she can, but must speak what he wants to happen for it to happen. However, he also has some reactive abilities that do not really need an incantation or casting for them to happen, such as creating magical shields or force fields. Number 4. Dr. Doom. You know how much I am always hankering to talk about everyone's favorite, I think, definitely one of my favorites, Dr. Doom. While Dr. Doom is more often recognized for his brilliant mind, it should also be acknowledged that he is a very powerful wizard as well, and a very dangerous one, considering that there is much that Doom is willing to risk in order to gain more power. At one point, he also becomes one of the most powerful wizards in all of Marvel, albeit briefly, when he takes on the power of Scarlet Witch. In fact, he becomes so powerful that it becomes too much for him, almost killing him before the powers end up being returned to Wanda. Number 3. Brother Voodoo. Based on what I said about inheriting the title of Sorcerer Supreme, Brother Voodoo should be one of the strongest magic users out there, as he was Sorcerer Supreme for a time after Doctor Strange, or in between Doctor Strange's time. But at the end of the day, he was more marked as second in line to the title after Strange was deemed too corrupted basically to still hold it. Still, this means Jericho Drumm is on the level with or kinda just behind Doctor Strange in terms of his magical skills, which is still pretty impressive. Brother Voodoo has even bested the powerful Dr. Doom in combat, who is considered pretty powerful when it comes to his intellectual and spiritual combination of science and magic. Brother Voodoo can teleport long distances using magic and is extremely powerful when it comes to manipulating or communing with spirits and to controlling various life forms. He is also known for his necromancy skills. Yeah, he doesn't just control the living, he can also control the dead, and he has access to not just his own magical knowledge and abilities, but that of his brother as well, whose spirit is bound to him. Number 2. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is widely regarded as one of the most powerful magic users in all of comics, let alone within the Marvel Universe itself. He is a formidable wizard who also has expanded knowledge not just of the magic of Earth, but also that of the cosmos. Even in recent years, when he has been without magic of his own, he has proven just how truly powerful he is, managing to still accomplish grand feats even while at his weakest. Recently in the comics, we got to revel in the epicness that is Doctor Strange as we watched him ascend to basically god level in the fight against Null. However, this power surge did end up being short-lived, as someone perhaps a little unexpected was waiting just around the corner to zap him of these newly inherited powers. Number 1. Donald Blake. Since Donald Blake has become his own being, separate from Thor, and has returned in the comics, he has been a force to be reckoned with and reasonably feared. Donald Blake originally was the alter ego of Thor Odinson during his various times on Earth, where he did not remember his true origins but merely believed he was a human. Odin made this so to teach his son humility. In the end, Thor would remember who he was but continue on living as Dr. Donald Blake and splitting his time between both the identities of Thor and Blake as well as Asgard and Earth for a time. After all this, however, Donald Blake was for a while trapped in a fake existence, which he believed was real, but after the illusion was lifted, he ended up breaking out of his prison, hell-bent on a mission of revenge. Basically, he had asked Thor for help, and Thor never answered him, so he was pretty upset about that. He aimed to eliminate every Thor in the universe for what had been done to him, and as a being created of the Odin Force, found himself able to absorb the magical powers of all of those connected to Odin and Asgard, which is how he became such a powerful magic user in the comics, in a fight against the Asgardian empowered Doctor Strange. So you can imagine how that went down. He was like, oh, I see your powers, oh, taking that. Now I'm crazy powerful. Yikes. Before we wrap up, let's turn to my honorary mention for this list, Mephisto. Mephisto is not a typical wizard, being the fact that he is also kind of a constant in the Marvel Universe, possibly the devil and definitely a demon. But still, he uses magic, battles against various magic users, and is often quite good at it. Often he uses magical contracts to defeat and ensnare his foes and his victims. Mephisto has demonstrated the power to alter reality, ensnare souls, manipulate others' powers and memories, create powerful illusions, bring back the dead, and even create new life forms. Basically, he is one of the most OP villains out there in the comics, who often uses magic to enact his dastardly plots. So, not entirely a wizard, but at the very least wizard adjacent, I would say. Number 10. Black Widow. No, not that Black Widow. Natasha is sadly not a magical super spy, though that is a comic I would read. Clairvoyant is the version of the character we are talking about here. Clairvoyant was Marvel's Black Widow prior to Natasha. In fact, Claire first appeared in 1940 in the comics, while Natasha wouldn't make her first appearance until 1964. Initially, Madame Clairvoyant was a psychic-based mystic who could communicate with the dead, a medium if you will. She herself, however, would end up dead, and it would be then that she would be resurrected with superpowers by someone who claimed to be Satan himself. She set out to claim the souls of evildoers and deliver them to her master. In exchange, as Satan's ambassador, she was supposedly made immortal and given supernatural powers, which allowed her to teleport to the Hell Dimension, granted her super strength and endurance, her death touch, the ability to heal, fly, turn invisible, and shapeshift. Pretty powerful magics, especially if they actually came from the real Satan himself. Number 9. Freya Frerdoter. While you might not think of Thor's mother as being a witch in comparison to her role as the All-Mother, it has been established before in the comics that Freya is capable of accomplishing magical feats. We don't yet know the range of her abilities when it comes to her magical power, but she is also a very powerful Asgardian and skilled warrior, so she also gets additional power when it comes to that. We have seen her able to seemingly wield magic, however, when it comes to creating shields and teleportation, but it's unknown what level of spellcaster she might be. Should the comics want to expand on this point, I would not be surprised if we learned that she was much more powerful when it came to her magical abilities than we give her credit for here. And there's lots of pictures of her doing some magic. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it, and I don't know, maybe subscribe if you haven't yet. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? We've been around for a while, come on, hit that subscribe for me. Number 8. Jennifer Kale. Jennifer Kale is an ally of the Man-Thing and is a descendant of the cult of Zered-Nab. Her grandfather, in fact, was still a leader of the cult when she was just a teenager. Wanting to experiment with witchcraft, Jennifer Kale used one of her grandfather's old books to do so. This unleashed a demon, which Man-Thing saved her from, creating a psychic link between Jennifer and Man-Thing. She would later be given powers by an ancient wizard who recruited her to help him defeat demons who were coming to conquer Earth after the Tome of Zered-Nab seemingly disappeared. Jennifer's powers allow her to cast spells with a mere thought. She not only calls on power from within herself, but can also tap into the power of ambient magical energy within the universe and use it, as well as energy from other dimensions. Her powers grant her many abilities, including the ability to teleport, create magical shields, summon bolts, and manipulate the minds of others. Number 7. Amanda Sefton. Amanda Sefton was originally known as Germaine. She comes from the family that took in Nightcrawler and raised him among their own children. As such, Amanda is basically like Nightcrawler's adopted sister. After the death of their brother Stefan, Amanda's mother, Margali, believed Nightcrawler was to blame. Germaine then traveled to America to find out for herself and changed her name to Amanda Sefton, going undercover as a flight attendant and dating Nightcrawler in order to learn more. Pretty weird that the two dated in my books, cause yeah, they are siblings, even if Nightcrawler's her adopted brother. Still weird, but yeah, it happened. She would end up working alongside the X-Men for a time and even rule Limbo under the mantle of magic herself. She's also been known as Day Tripper before in the comics, so you might know her by that name. Amanda's powers allow her to magically heal, teleport, summon magical bolts, create illusions, alter her appearance, and hypnotize others, as well as cast a good number of other spells with different effects. So yeah, she can do a lot of things. Most magical people, I love listing their powers because like what can't they do is more the question. Number 6. Nico Minoru. Nico is a member and the leader of the Runaways. She initially was raised by her parents, who were revealed to be part of a dark magic cult. Both her parents were dark wizards and attempted to chase Nico down after she attempted to run away from them after learning of their secret. During this altercation, she redeemed the Staff of One, which became embedded within her and now grants her magical abilities. Nico casts spells by remembering painful memories and using incantations. However, once she has cast a spell, she can never cast the same one again. Attempting to do so will result in a random effect as opposed to the same effect that happened when she cast that spell the first time. Nico's magic is based in the world of blood magic, and she often relies on the Staff of One to help her cast grander spells. Number 5. Magic. Magic is obviously one of the most powerful magic users out there. A few times it's been implied and even shown in the comics that Magic has the potential to become the new Sorcerer Supreme because of how powerful she is and how much potential she has. And if you're battling her while she is in Limbo, watch out because she will be even more powerful there. Magic's power is tied to that realm, and while in Limbo, all that she is capable of becomes basically limitless. Of course, outside of Limbo, magic is less powerful, but even then she is still capable of kicking most people's butts. Even at a lower power level, she's still a powerhouse. And if her Dark Child persona gets unleashed, then you have even more to be afraid of when it comes to what magic can do and what she'll want to do, because Dark Child is scary. Number 4. Enchantress. Amora the Enchantress is from Asgard and is known for being one of the most powerful magic users within that realm. She is often the enemy of Thor, seeking to destroy him, but is also sometimes his lover, depending on the story. In fact, in many stories, it's kind of the ire or rejection that she has felt as his lover, or of being his lover, that has inspired her hate for him. And other times, she is simply his enemy because she seeks to claim his heart for herself. So she's like, I will get that Thor and I'll make him love me. Wahaha. Enchantress is capable of using her magics to complete many great feats, and she also has the added power of Asgardian physiology as well, which keeps her almost eternally youthful and grants her increased strength, speed, and endurance. Number 3. Agatha Harkness. One of the most powerful witches around is Wanda's mentor in the comics, Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness is much more tough and capable than her frail appearance might lead you to believe. But not only that, she is also way older than she looks. Like, she looks like an elderly lady, but she's really old. It's been revealed that Agatha remembers a time when the sunken city of Atlantis was still above sea level, so she's not just elderly, she's ancient. With all those years of existence comes a ton of experience that Agatha has often put to good use while working as an ally with various heroes and magic users to protect that which she considers to be worthy of protection in the comics. This makes her less a hero or a villain, but more a powerful ally when she wants to be in regards to multiple different causes. However, she usually is concerned with protecting those she cares about and also preventing any apocalyptic events from coming to pass. Number 2. Scarlet Witch. Wanda is one of the most powerful witches out there. While she was trained by Agatha, I would wager at this point that she has far surpassed her mentor, in terms of what she's capable of at least. In fact, she must have, because she did at one point successfully kill Agatha after she learned the truth of what had happened to her twin boys. So unless Agatha let this happen because she felt Wanda deserved revenge, I guess, her death does imply that Wanda is ultimately more powerful and more deadly. The Scarlet Witch is immensely powerful, so powerful in fact that her suffering a mental breakdown caused her fellow colleagues and heroes to consider killing her because they were so frightened of the destruction her powers, emotionally charged and untethered, could cause. We have seen Wanda change all of reality, flip the alignment of many of Earth's heroes and villains, and defeat the Phoenix Force, banishing it. For a while at least. Even though her spells and rituals don't work out exactly as she planned most of the time, you cannot deny the power that is Scarlet Witch. Number 1. Morgan Le Fay. While Morgan Le Fay is one of the baddest baddies out there, she still happens to be super duper powerful, which is pretty surprising considering she's one of the bad guys, so they don't normally win most of the time. Considering the ranking for Merlin on my part 2 of most powerful wizards, it makes sense that Morgan takes our number 1 spot here, as she was once a student of Merlin himself. She is believed to be the most powerful witch and one of the most powerful magic users in the world. Not only that, but she was even considered a possible replacement for Doctor Strange as Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, which would be kinda terrifying, but very interesting to read. Morgan can not only warp reality, but also has a lot more control over how she does it, which is something that Wanda's still working on. She also has extensive knowledge when it comes to all different kinds of magic and has taken on some of Earth's mightiest heroes and villains and won against them. She is capable of time travel, can control the dead, bring others back to life, bring herself back to life even, imbue other beings with power, shapeshift, transmute, and teleport. She is crazy powerful. So powerful, it's scary. Number 10. Forge. While Forge is thought of as a mutant first, he also has magical abilities. We don't see him use them as much as his technological powers and intellect, but he is known as a man of both mysticism and science. Forge is a shaman and has mystical abilities and powers which allow him to cast spells, transport himself and others to alternate dimensions, and he can even manipulate and use the souls of others. He is also able to access his spirit or astral form and leave his body to walk among the astral plane. At one point in the comics, Forge's all-around powers were even acknowledged as being beyond comprehension when it came to what he was capable of, and he was even referred to in a way that hinted he could be on the level of a Sorcerer Supreme. Ooh, with his base being described as his Sanctum Sanctorum. Unless that's just like a thing we do for magic users, like everyone has a Sanctum Sanctorum. But I've only ever heard it used for Sorcerer Supreme, so I'm gonna assume that that's like a thing. Number 9. Captain Britain. What is it with magic users and being doctors? Although Captain Britain isn't thought of as a direct wizard, it should be noted that he is very magical, with his powers being heavily tied to Otherworld and the world of mysticism. While Brian Braddock isn't a medical doctor, he does have his PhD in physics, which he received from Thames University, giving him the title of Doctor. Captain Britain's powers themselves came directly from another powerful magic user of Otherworld, Merlin, and his daughter Roma. They offered him a choice between the Amulet of Right and the Sword of Might. Although you might think of Brian as a powerful warrior, he actually sees himself as more of a scholar, which is why he reached for the Amulet of Right, transforming him into the superhero Captain Britain. While he doesn't cast spells, his powers are magical in origin and grant him the ability to travel to alternate dimensions such as Otherworld. And before we move on to our next spot, just a quick reminder to give this list a thumbs up. It really does help us out here at the channel, and if you're not subscribed yet, why not do that too? Number 8. Dr. Druid. Dr. Druid was actually a student of the Ancient Ones and was known as being a pretty accomplished one at that before Stephen Strange came along. Dr. Druid himself is also a medical professional like Strange and would become a hero who would eventually serve on the Avengers, although he'd later become a villain and eventually end up disgraced because of his villainous actions. Yikes. He initially was a psychiatrist, earning his MD and getting a degree in psychology from Harvard University. Initially fascinated by druidic magic, Dr. Druid is knowledgeable in both Celtic rituals as well as various kinds of mysticism. Number 7. Magic. While magic is female, she could still be considered a wizard or sorcerer, if you will, if a possible future came to pass. One that many anticipate will be magic's eventual true future. In fact, there have been a few alternate futures where magic becomes sorcerer Supreme, one of the most celebrated being the alternate reality of Earth 18133, where magic becomes Stephen Strange's apprentice after escaping Belasco. You can read this version of events in What If Magic from 2018, but there have also been other glimpses into this potential future as recently as last year with the story Doctor Strange: The End. Also, fun fact, men can sometimes be witches, like DC's Clarion the Witch Boy, and women can also sometimes be wizards, like magic in this case. Number 6. Shaman. Shaman is Dr. Michael II Youngman, an indigenous man who is descended from a long line of Sarsi mystics. Initially, Michael was a surgeon, but after he was unable to save his sick wife and she died, he ended up finally embracing his spiritual side. He learned from the spirit of his grandfather and became a powerful sorcerer capable of many different feats, and would eventually join up with Canadian superhero team Alpha Flight. Shaman can use his abilities to heal, create illusions, control plants, time travel, fly, and communicate with spirits and animals, in addition to linking to other humans' minds. Not only is he gifted with magic, but he also is believed to be one of the most gifted and talented surgeons in all of Canada, so his medical skills can also be quite useful in deadly situations. Number 5. Dormammu. Dormammu isn't so much a person as he is a magical entity made up of energy, but still, he's more like a person in the comics than his MCU version made him out to be. He's not just like a disembodied head, usually. And at the very least, he's person-shaped. Regardless of the fact that he's not human, Dormammu is still considered a powerful magic user, and I think he identifies as male. That's how Dormammu is usually referred to anyways. He, him. Dormammu has been around for possibly millennia, and as such is one of the most gifted, talented, and powerful magic users around. His powers are epic and great, but his weakness is that he relies on energy from his dimension to ensure that he remains strong. So being outside of the dark dimension or having it shut off from him greatly affects the level of his power. Especially if, you know, he's outside of the dark dimension. In the dark dimension though, yikes, not someone you'd want to fight. Number 4. Agamotto. Agamotto is the wizard who created such powerful magical artifacts as the Orb of Agamotto, the Book of Vishanti, and the Eye of Agamotto, some of which you may recognize. Thanks to the Doctor Strange film, in fact, I believe almost everyone would recognize the Eye of Agamotto, and hence the name of this sorcerer anywhere. Agamotto was the Sorcerer Supreme way back, and even worked alongside as part of the team of Avengers in the Stone Age. Initially, Agamotto was an accomplished hero in history, but he would later return as a determined villain after believing both Doctor Strange and later Dr. Voodoo were both insults to the title. He returned to the Earth as a powerful spirit and attempted to invade it with demons. True story. Also, not a great look for someone who used to be a hero. Number 3. Sisson-Egg. Sisson-Egg is a character who has only appeared in a few comic issues, and who first debuted in Marvel Premiere issue 13 in 1974. Also, I worked really hard to think about how to say his name, so I hope I got it right. His name is actually Genesis backwards, which was how I thought of how to say it. He has been known by a few other names throughout time, such as Genesis and Cagliostro, but he was originally a sorcerer from the 31st century who perfected his own mode and way of traveling through time without causing paradoxes that would erase his existence. Pretty impressive and useful. His plan was to travel back through history and become a more powerful wizard, as in his time period it was known that magic was finite, and while man in the future possessed it, no one person possessed an exorbitant amount of magical power. Hence, Sisson-Egg would travel backwards in time, absorbing the magic of others to add to his own power. Mwahaha. Number 2. Adam Warlock. Well, you might think of Adam Warlock as being more of a cosmic hero. I know, I do, and he is. He also manages to blend the worlds of space and magic together. His magical abilities were actually created by his own self and his own will. After being resurrected, he acquired a power referred to as quantum magic, which allows him to repurpose surrounding cosmic energy or metaphysical quantum energy to perform magical feats. Using quantum magic, Adam Warlock is able to perform spells which allow him to heal, summon magical lightning, create force fields, create powerful and realistic illusions, and even manipulate time. Pretty impressive, especially for a hero who is often dubbed more cosmic than magical in origins. His powers really do put the Warlock in his name, Adam Warlock. Number 1. Merlin. Merlin was once the Sorcerer Supreme, but is now known as one of the main beings of Otherworld, and in fact the version of him who resides there is believed to know of not only events across the multiverse, but also the alternate versions of himself that reside on alternate Earths across alternate timelines. His powers are as vast as the many different feats he has claimed to have accomplished. If anything, his power could be measured by those he taught, such as the immensely powerful Morgan Le Fay. The artifacts he carries around also carry considerable power and include the Book of Skelos and the Stones of Merlin. He also typically is seen with a cone-shaped hat and, of course, a staff. After all, what would a powerful wizard be without their trusty and true fancy stick?
And at number 10, Punk Mambo. From the Valiant universe, Punk Mambo is a series about a hard-living voodoo priestess, raised in London, relocated to the Bayou. A mystical mercenary for hire, often helping the wayward, troubled, and damned with what afflicts them, she does it for a price, often a steep one. Mambo, whose real name is Victoria Greaves Trott, is described as a street-savvy British punk with a rich cultural history of voodoo, and she battles the forces of evil too. So, what is this priestess capable of? Astral projection, hypnosis, illusion casting, magic, duh, necromancy, longevity, she doesn't age, and unarmed combat. She also has enhanced senses. Neat. Next up, in at number 9, Blue Boy. Blue Boy is a character from Fables, a series published by Vertigo, which, yes, is owned by DC, but cut us some slack here, friends. The series features characters from fairy tales and folklore who call themselves Fables, and live in a centuries-old community within New York City after their homelands were conquered by a deadly and mysterious enemy known as the Adversary. Blue is known as a hero, and he was a former farmhand and warrior before becoming a clerk at the business office in Fabletown. And he's magical! He's immortal, as all Fables are, and carries around something called a Vorpal Blade, which can cut through most spells and enchantments. He also has a witching cloak which acts as an impregnable armor that cannot be burned, stretched, or ripped. It also has an endless personal carrying capacity and can give the wearer shapeshifting abilities. I mean, crap, hook me up with one of those please. Where do I buy on Amazon? In at number 8, Marco from Saga. While Saga hardly feels like an indie comic these days and is published by Image Comics, it's definitely by far one of the best and most popular series outside of DC and Marvel series. Saga is the story of a fugitive family struggling to survive a galactic war between the Wreath and the Landfall. Alana and Marco, our somewhat protagonist parents, were born on opposite sides of the war, becoming star-crossed lovers who have a child, Hazel, who narrates the series. It's a sci-fi meets fantasy, and it's got its fair share of magic. Marco was born on Wreath and has magical abilities that are quite unique. He has disintegration abilities in which he uses the ingredients of secrets to disintegrate hostile plant life. He can use binding spells to trap enemies together. He has healing abilities, but for healing big wounds he requires snow as an ingredient in the spell. Now that last one is something that he can only do to others born on Wreath if he needs to heal them. And he's also capable of electrokinesis, in which he can summon lightning strikes. Up next, number 7, Dee from Rat Queens. Dee, which is short for Delilah, is a human cleric, an atheist, and a character who hails from a family of Lovecraftian monster cultists who praised a flying squid god called Nyrgoth. Ngryoth? I'm probably saying that wrong. It's a squid god, so cut me some slack. She used to be the high priestess of said cult, but having become disillusioned by the horrible things her family worshipped, she left and began to travel on her own, which is how she met the other rat queens in the series. These days she mostly uses her magic for healing, but is also capable of necromancy, and she is skilled with a dagger. In at number 6, Snow White. Snow White is the deputy mayor of Fabletown, and is one of the main characters we follow throughout the series of fables. She was the first wife of Prince Charming before falling for Big B Wolf and getting married to him. So, what is Snow capable of? A lot, actually. She's pretty bad. For starters, she's immortal like all fables, but her magical abilities are where it's at. She is a descendant of a particularly magical line, inheriting great natural power, and she reeks of elegant energies, according to Prince Brandish. She can conjure armor and weapons, and she can fly, which is pretty darn cool. She also has superhuman durability, which allows her to be virtually invulnerable. She's been shot in the head and has survived from it. In addition to that, she also speaks German, can manage the hell out of the business, and is an expert at fencing and knows her way around hand-to-hand combat. Up next, number 5, Witchblade. Witchblade, the series published by Top Cow Productions, follows a character named Sarah Panezzi, an NYPD homicide detective who comes across a gauntlet artifact. That artifact is Witchblade, a supernatural sentient piece of armor that bonds with a female host, providing her a ton of magical superpowers in order to fight off evil. Now the woman who wields Witchblade gets this laundry list of cool abilities. She can shapeshift, has superhuman strength and endurance, a healing factor which extends to fatal wounds, invulnerability, pyrokinesis, tactile healing, the healing of illnesses and wounds of other creatures, summoning for weapons and whatnot, and an adaptive armor which covers its host entirely depending on the situation. The armor is incredibly strong and impervious to firearms, explosives, and even energy blasts. But take that gauntlet off and oof, no bueno. Moving on to number 4, Lucifer. The Wicked and the Divine is a really awesome series. It's a contemporary fantasy comic book published by Image Comics, highly influenced by pop music, and follows various mythological deities. So of course Lucifer the fallen angel is in it. Lucifer is the devil and one of the gods of the pantheon in the Divine and the Wicked. She's pretty impressive in terms of her abilities. She's a pyrokinetic, able to produce fires as she pleases, and the ability to cause foes to combust. She can also use the ability to cause foes to combust, create entire walls of fire, or use it with such precision as to destroy bullets. She can also use this fire as a force field to protect herself, and she has the ability to grant powers to an extent, and can teleport to the underground. Speaking of the Divine and the Wicked, that brings us to our next number in at 3, Laura Wilson. The narrative of the Divine and the Wicked follows our number here, Laura, who interacts with the Pantheon, a group of 12 people who are reincarnated deities. They end up getting supernatural powers, but there is a stipulation. They will die within 2 years as part of a 90-year cycle called the Recurrence. Laura briefly becomes the reincarnation of Persephone, the goddess of springtime, vegetation, flowers, fertility, nature, death, rebirth, and of course, the queen of the underworld. Moving on to number 2, Frau Tokenkinder. Frau Tokenkinder is from Fables, and she's known as the Black Forest Witch. She's a powerful member of the 13th floor in Fabletown, the group of witches and sorcerers who provide enhancements and spells that keep the community safe and cloak the magical nature of its inhabitants from the outside world. Often her spells come at a steep price. She's been around since the Paleolithic era. Her natural form is a beautiful young woman, but she normally appears as old. Also, she passed away. She's the former leader of the 13th floor. So when she was alive and kicking, what could she do, magically speaking? Well, for starters, she was immortal. She used to sacrifice 2 children a year so she wouldn't age. That is intense. She was capable of precognition, witchcraft that allowed her to self-resurrect, create her own spells, including the death curse, curse others, of course, magical energy blast, elemental manipulation, mind control, shapeshift, transmutation, portal creation, magical tool creation, and also had an extreme knowledge of all things occult. Yeah, not too shabby. And finally, in at number 1, Anake. Anake is the personification of inevitability, compulsion, and necessity in the divine and the wicked. Anake has immense powers and is considered one of the most powerful gods in the series. She is the one who acts as an advisor to the Pantheon, informs them that they are gods, and begins their incarnation. While she cares a great deal for the others, she always prioritizes the recurrence over the lives of the individuals. So, what can she do? She is capable of divine incarnation and bestowing powers, being the one who is in charge of each individual's ascension into godhood. She grants them the divine powers. She can manipulate and project energy. She likes to explode heads, and has a great deal of control over said power. She can atomize humans if she chose to do so. She can project force fields and siphon energy, and she's got an immense tolerance to pain. She's immortal, duh, and can split her consciousness into 2 entirely different bodies.
Number 10. Magic. Ilyana Rasputin is a mutant and the sister of the famous X-Man Colossus. She was born in Russia, but when she was very young, she was kidnapped by a being known as Belasco and taken to Limbo, also known as Other Place. It was there she not only learned how to control her own abilities, but was taught even more during her time there. Eventually, she became powerful enough to escape, although when she returned, she found out that only a few seconds had gone by on Earth, whereas for her, it had been years. She then went on to join the New Mutants and took on the name Magic. Her powers include stepping discs, which allow her to teleport great distances and through time. She also is a master of sorcery because of her time in Limbo. Number 9. Raven. Rachel Roth is the daughter of the demon Trigon and human Angelo Roth. For most of her life, Raven had no idea who her father was. She was raised in an alternate dimension called Azarath by the goddess Azar. It was there where she learned to control and harness her abilities and emotions. It was Azar's hope that this would help Raven fend off her father's influence once, she eventually returned to Earth. Eventually, Azar passed away and Raven learned of her father, who, of course, went after her. Raven left Azarath and went to Earth. She wanted to recruit other heroes to help her in her fight against her father. Unfortunately, she was rejected by the Justice League, which forced her to create her own team, the Teen Titans. They managed to stop Trigon, but obviously not for good. Bad guys never stay gone forever. He eventually did end up coming back again. Raven is very powerful. She's able to cast magic spells, fly, teleport, use telekinesis, astral projection, and darkness manipulation. Number 8. Wiccan. Wiccan, also known as Billy Kaplan and formerly known as the hero Asgardian, was revealed to be one of the long-lost children of Scarlet Witch and Vision. His powers come from the same form of chaos magic as his mother, whereas his twin brother Speed inherited similar abilities to their uncle Quicksilver. Billy grew up in New York with his adoptive parents who, he thought were his real ones for the longest time, Rebecca and Jeff Kaplan. Billy was bullied all the time because of his sexual orientation, and one day after being beaten up by John Kessler, Billy decided to go to his favorite place in the entire world, the Avengers Mansion. It was there he met his favorite Avenger, Scarlet Witch, who gave him advice on how to stand up to the bully. He didn't really take the advice right away. He kept trying to avoid the problem, and then one day he noticed John tormenting another kid and decided, you know what, enough is enough. He stood up to John, which in turn ended up unlocking his abilities, resulting in him almost killing him. Later on, he ended up becoming a member of the Young Avengers and is in a relationship with fellow Young Avenger, Hulkling. Wiccan has a wide array of abilities that include, teleportation, flight, mystical reality warping, force fields, telekinesis, and telepathy. One thing to note is that he is still young. Many believe that, as he gets older, he'll become even more powerful, so, odds are, he will only get closer to the top of this list as the years go on. Number 7. Zatanna. Zatanna is a powerful magical magician. She's the daughter of the famous magician John Zitara and magical user Cinderella, who was a member of the magical group The Hidden Ones. For most of her life, Zatanna believed her mother died when she was, really young, which turned out obviously not to be true. Turns out she faked her own death so she could be with her own people. She was primarily raised by her father John, who took her all around the world, helping her learn and control the magical abilities she inherited. Unfortunately, an evil witch, Allura, cursed Zatanna, and she couldn't see her father ever again. But she was eventually able to break that curse, but it just took a really long time. Also, when she casts spells, in order for them to work, she needs to say them backwards. She's also been a member of the Justice League and Justice League Dark. She can also use her spells to control fire, air, ice, earth, plants, and she can also fly, control the weather, and make illusions, use telekinesis, telepathy, travel to different dimensions, and create force fields. Number 6. John Constantine. Oh man, John Constantine. As I mentioned in a previous video, I know in the original source material it's pronounced Constantine, but in all of his live action appearances and animated appearances, he's referred to as Constantine, and honestly that's just kind of the preferred pronunciation nowadays. Okay, so John Constantine is a magical con man. He was born in Liverpool and raised in London. He's a master of dark arts and smokes a ton of cigarettes and says whatever he wants, and that's usually why he tends to rub people the wrong way. But you know, he honestly doesn't care. One of the most famous stories regarding John is the Newcastle incident. When he was younger and not as skilled in magic, John made a fatal mistake that would haunt him for the rest of his life. John was called to help a young girl named Astra. She was possessed by a demon, so John decided to summon his own demon to get rid of the one that was in Astra. It worked, but John lost control of the demon he summoned, and it ended up taking young Astra back down to hell with it. John has become one of the most powerful magic users in the DC world, and since he is a master of the dark arts and practiced magic his entire life, John can, cast spells, he can summon demons, obviously, and travel to different dimensions. Number 5. Shazam. Originally known as Captain Marvel, Shazam is a superhero from the DC universe. Now, there have been a few different origins for Shazam. Today I am going to talk about the one that came out of the New 52, which was the main, inspiration for the 2019 film Shazam. Billy Batson is an orphan who consistently ran away from every new family that he was ever put with. Eventually, the Vasquez family adopts him, and that's when things start to change in a way. They are a very loving family with multiple adopted children. Of course, this still doesn't stop Billy from just trying to leave at the first chance he gets. One night, Billy sneaks out to visit a tiger at the zoo, Mr. Tawny, but is followed by his new adopted brother Freddy. They then decide to take revenge on these bullies from their school, who have, tormented the family for the last few years. Of course, something goes wrong and the bullies find them. Billy then decides to distract them, which allows his brother Freddy to get away. He then escapes onto the subway and is taken to the mystical fortress known as the Rock of Eternity. From there, the wizard known as Shazam sees Billy's potential and how he has a good heart and bestows his powers onto him. So now he can stop Black Adam and the 7 deadly sins. Now, to access these powers, all he has to say is Shazam, and he transforms into a full-grown adult with powers. The wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Number 4. Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff comes from the Marvel Universe and has a very complicated history. For a very long time, it was believed she and her twin brother Pietro, aka Quicksilver, were the kids of, supervillain Magneto, but that ended up not being the case and was later changed. Turns out Wanda and her brother were taken from their real parents when they were very young and experimented on by the High Evolutionary. So not only did they reveal that Magneto wasn't her true father, it also revealed that she wasn't technically even a mutant either. Back to the main point, Scarlet Witch is just insanely powerful. I mean, she can manipulate and warp reality and is able to cast very powerful spells. Wanda has even been a member of the Avengers and ended up having 2 kids with fellow Avenger Vision, one of which we mentioned earlier on the list. During the events of the House of M storyline, which is now referred to as M-Day, Wanda uttered the words "no more mutants" and caused almost the entire mutant population to lose their powers. Oh jeez. Number 3, Dr. Fate. Now, Dr. Fate is a DC character that has been the title of different people over the years, but today I'm going to talk about the one that's arguably the most famous, Kent Nelson. Ken was the son of an archaeologist. Him and his father were exploring a tomb and accidentally awoke Naboo the Wise, which ended up releasing this poison gas and took the life of Kent's father. Naboo decided to take Kent on as his apprentice, even though, Ken didn't really want to. So Naboo erased all of Kent's memories of his father and began to train him. He eventually became very, very powerful in the ways of magic, and Naboo decided to give him his memories back. Of course, Kent wasn't really happy about the whole situation, but Naboo explained that he was the Lord of Order and has been fighting the never-ending battle between order and chaos. Before leaving, Naboo gave Kent a golden amulet and helmet. He told Kent that these 2 items would grant him even more power, and of course, Naboo's spirit is directly tied to the helmet, so anyone that ends up putting it on is connected with him. Dr. Fate went on to be one of the founding members of the Justice Society of America, and he has a wide array of abilities, flight, spells, telekinesis, enhanced strength, speed, invisibility, time travel, reality manipulation, and of course, is immortal. Number 2, the Spectre. Also from DC, the Spectre is a mystical being who, like Dr. Fate, has been linked to multiple people throughout the years. The most popular version being Jim Corrigan, a cop who was murdered by a gang. Hal Jordan, also known as Green Lantern, has also been the Spectre at one point in the comics, and one of the more recent ones was Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, during the Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths, based on the comic of the same name. The Spectre's powers are directly tied to the presence, which is kind of like DC's version of God, in a sense. His mission is to deliver God's vengeance upon those who are evil. Now, on his own, his powers are essentially limitless, but in order to operate on Earth, he needs to have a human host. And that's where, some of his limitations come in. Although, that doesn't really stop him from being one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He has been a crucial part of multiple world-ending threats in the DC world, the most famous being Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he helped the Paragons stop the Anti-Monitor. And, fun fact, he is also one of the founding members of the Justice Society of America. His powers include immortality, reality alteration, dimension travel, flight, super strength, fear projection, invisibility, and the list just goes on and on. The guy can basically do anything, and he's pretty awesome. Number 1, Doctor Strange. Was there ever any doubt? Magic and Doctor Strange, they just go hand in hand together. Dr. Stephen Strange hails from the Marvel Universe. He was a highly skilled surgeon who got into a terrible accident, permanently damaging the nerves in his hands. Stephen tried to heal his hands any way he could, but nothing was working. Modern medicine was just failing him. So he decided to go beyond that. That's when he found the Ancient One, who taught him in the ways of magic. One of the things I admire most about Doctor Strange is that he has truly grown as a character. He was this jerk with just a massive ego and thought nothing bad would ever happen to him, but of course that's not how life works. And after the accident, he trained for years and years to become the most powerful sorcerer in the Marvel Universe. And that is pretty awesome. His powers include casting spells, astral projection, flight, because of his handy dandy cloak of levitation, protective shields, illusions, time manipulation, telekinesis, and dimensional travel.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Mojo. Making his first debut in Longshot issue 3, Mojo is known for using Earth as forms of TV entertainment for the universe. It's like The Bachelor in Paradise, but it's us. And we're like, hey, what's going on? Are we dead? And his power increases the more viewers he gets for this interdimensional TV show. So like and subscribe his stuff as well as ours. We want to keep both things thriving. So in 1992, the issue titled Mojo's Media Madness had this wild storyline where Mojo gets Rogue, Cyclops, Beast, and Wolverine to think that they are characters from The Wizard of Oz. That goes down in X-Men issue 10. It's so wild. It's kind of funny, but mostly terrifying. He's part of a race of spineless beings from a planet named after him called Mojo World. Of course, inside a pocket dimension called the Mojo-verse. We get it, dude. It's all about you, okay? Cool. So this race of spineless beings were slowly going crazy over time because TV signals from another space-time continuum were scattered into their timelines. He's a powerful sorcerer, obviously because of his list, and we're not exactly sure just how far his magic can go. To be honest, I was leaning a bit towards Mojo being the mastermind behind the WandaVision plot. I thought he had something to do with it, but thankfully it was Wanda and her powers were just finally coming through, all those crazy powers, which I'll be talking about a little bit later in this list. And before we go to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It's this one, not that one, so make sure you hit that one right there because it helps out our channel so much. You guys are the best. Now back to some more evil magic users. Number 9, Spiral. Rita Wayward made her debut in Longshot issue 1. She's actually a loyal servant to that spineless whack job that I just mentioned. But it didn't start that way, of course not. Ricochet Rita was once a professional stunt performer. She became friends with a guy named Longshot who was from that Mojo-verse that I just talked about. She was attacked by this insane version of herself called Spiral that was from the future. So after that was taken care of, she decided to follow her heart and go back to that dimension with Longshot. And when they got there, Longshot couldn't pull through and they both were captured by Mojo. What a dick. See, Longshot's mind was wiped forgetting Rita, which is so sad already, but for Rita, it just got worse. Mojo got his scientist Ares to modify her mentally and physically. So now she's got 6 arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry editors, you can add those or you can't add them. I know it's a lot of work. So now she has 6 arms. She turned her hair gray and now she could see other dimensions. That's crazy, quite the upgrade. She was a twisted little version of Mojo and she got trained in the dark arts of magic and body modification. And as you may have guessed, that future version of her was just that. Mojo sent her new and improved self to go back in time and attack her past self. Number 8, the Dire Wraiths. Back when the Skrulls were still in their early stages of existence, the Celestials came to Skrullos and experimented on all of these life forms. Now, some of these Skrulls grew up to become the Dire Wraiths. They studied black magic and they got out of Dodge. They were like, cool, good info, you guys are all pretty nuts, we're out of here. They used magic and technology to take on the form of other species, and they would try and take over the world with these abilities. They're bad guys. The Earth would have just been wiped out probably by these guys if Rom the Space Knight didn't have a device to reveal a Dire Wraith. It's kind of like the eyes of truth, the lens of truth from Zelda. You're like, that's a Dire Wraith right there. Nice genes, you're a Wraith. They emerged from the deviant Skrulls, and when Galactus came to their homeworld, they made it rain acid and destroyed all of his equipment. Yeah, they made it rain acid. So, they're evil. The sorcery is strong with this one, for sure. Number 7, Celine. She made her first debut in New Mutants issue 9. Celine was born around 17,000 years ago in Europe, so she's a bit old, right after the oceans swallowed Atlantis. She's known as the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, and she blends her mutant abilities with her magical abilities. So she's quite a pain in the neck. Well, actually, if she made contact with your neck, you would turn into dust. What makes Celine so powerful yet feared is that she has life force absorption. She can drain the life forces of a human and then absorb that power for herself. It keeps her young and beautiful. Maybe that's Jennifer Aniston's secret. Maybe that's it all along. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It would make sense. Timeline, it would make sense. Who knows? But not only does the victim's body crumble to dust, but Celine takes your memories. She'll be hanging out and she's like, did I forget my phone charger? No, wait, no, that was Brian, the guy I just absorbed. Yeah, see, I lose track sometimes. Come on, let's go. Number 6, Agatha Harkness. Now, of course, we gotta mention Agatha. I mean, it was Agatha all along, right, guys? We just saw her show her true colors as WandaVision came to an end. Agatha Harkness is pretty old, as most witches ought to be. She made her first comic book debut in Fantastic Four issue 94. She was in the 17th century Salem witch trials, and what she would do is she would turn over various sorcerers to these witch haters, and her whole idea was that she made the witch community stronger by ridding it of those who couldn't defend themselves. Okay. So she had one child named Nicholas Scratch, who was a warlock. Now, in WandaVision, we meet Senior Scratchy, and there was even a deleted scene that showed him in his demonic form and in action, but they cut that because of COVIDs. Sad. She's an expert with spells, and as she gets older, even older than she already is, she becomes physically weaker, which makes sense. Your bones get brittle, you gotta drink your milk. But she does have a cat, the classic witch thing. She's got a cat named Ebony, which is a powerful extra-dimensional creature. She uses the cat to run errands, you know, having old knees and all. She's like, can you grab me some milk? Thanks. Old ladies are watching this, they're like, that was offensive. Didn't like that one. Number 5, Malakith the Accursed. Making his first appearance in Thor issue 344, Malakith was a dark elf born the 13th son to a 13th son. I'm like the second son to a second son. And that guy's name's Douglas. I'm not even nearly as cool as this guy. He was the leader of the Dark Elves, and when it comes to magic, he's a natural. He was born that way, baby. Malakith can manipulate great amounts of mystical energy for whatever reasons he needs. He can use magic to alter his own appearance. The dude at one point turns himself into mist, like the Coca-Cola mist zone at theme parks. Dude can just hang out as mist and cool you down. And if the mystic mist isn't cutting it for transportation, he can straight up teleport. And he can teleport through dimensions as well, so cool. Who needs Uber? That girl was coughing on the Ubers. She's like, oh, can I turn to mist? How do I get around town? I honestly love the look of Malakith in the comics. Thor the Dark World, I mean, least favorite Thor movie by far, but the Dark Elf stuff was fun, I think, for a little. One of my favorite tricks by Malakith is when he used magic to heal himself whilst also appearing dead, which is what I do every time I fall asleep on the bus. He does have a weakness though, iron. Yeah, his powers don't work against iron, and if he were to make physical contact with iron, it would burn his skin. So Iron Man, what's up? Not actually iron, I know guys, I know. Number 4, Morgan Le Fay. Medieval witches in alternate timelines. That should sell you enough, that's it. Making her first appearance in Black Knight issue 1 back in 1955, after Atlantis sunk way back in the day, there were islands that were left over. And on the largest of those islands, Avalon, Igraine was a sea princess who had a daughter with a man from the Sacred Clan. Man from the Sacred Clan, that's not right. the daughter being Morgan. So Morgan was taken to the House of Virgins to serve as a sea princess. They all left the islands after a young priest warned them of an upcoming catastrophe. And then the islands were drowned by massive waves caused by this volcano that exploded. It was a whole thing. She's been a recurring villain to the Avengers in the comics for a while now. And when the Dark Avengers were formed by Norman Osborn, Morgan was their first enemy to face off against. Talk about setting that scary bar nice and high. She's a powerful spellcaster, one of those spells being reality warping by using the Norn stones. She travels through time, and one of the craziest trips back through time was in Dark Avengers when she went back to take care of Doom when he was just a wee child. But she didn't take care of him. She actually instead wanted him to know why she planned on taking care of him, which is like the most villain thing ever. She's like, hey buddy, yeah, I was gonna kill you, but I didn't. Okay, bye. So crazy. Yeah, time travel is easy for her. She can even manipulate the rules of time travel to repeatedly undo her own death and return unharmed to that same battle, which has got to be confusing to whoever she's fighting. What? What? Dude, this sucks. That's amazing. And weakness also, you guessed it, iron. Absolutely. Number 3, Amatsu Mikamoshi. Amatsu Mikamoshi is based on a demon from Japanese mythology. He was trying to take over Olympus and Asgard, but he got locked up for his crimes, of course. An incarnation of the primordial darkness and chaos that existed before the universe. They're also referred to as the Chaos King, which has a nice little ring to it. That sounds good. During the secret invasion event, the Earth's heroes and villains set up this God Squad, led by Hercules, to act as a defense. Now, the God Squad sounds cool when you say it out loud, but they weren't necessarily on board with this evil shapeshifter just lurking about the team, you know? He could transform into anything. He's an expert shapeshifter, and his go-to appearance just happens to be a massive creature from darkness itself. I'm taking on this form because, you know, I'm trying to be a little nerdy boy. So it's safe to say that this one was born into the hashtag villain life. Number 2, Amora the Enchantress. She made her first debut in Journey into Mystery issue 103, and her relationship with Thor is, honestly, I'd love to see this in live action. It's kind of crazy. So half the time she wants to get with Thor, you know, and then the other half she wants to take him out. So most Asgardians are based off of a real life myth, like Thor of course, but she's fresh from the mind of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And she has a pretty sweet life. She's got multiple mansions throughout the 9 realms, and she can make gold and diamonds with her tears. So even if she's sad, she's still hashtag rich. So she's really good at seducing people. For example, Scourge, she would seduce him into helping her with her evil plans, and he was so into her that he wouldn't even care. He would just do anything to help her out. He was kind of whipped. Meanwhile, Amora wouldn't follow through with her side of the deal. She would just play hard and get it. She's like, yeah, you want that? Go do something. Go cover my shift. I'm not doing that for you. Bye. So she messes with your mind and your heart. That's a villain. Now in the comics, she was sent by Odin to take out Jane Foster because the whole loving on different worlds thing, that's kind of a no-no. Long distance relationships, we don't do that. So she tried to attack Jane and Thor intervened. And then she was banished to Earth by Odin. What a story, like what a resume. Where she then joined the Masters of Evil, of course. Her tool is seduction. Just one kiss is all it takes to make you in her control. She doesn't have too much experience with hand-to-hand combat because, well, she just gets other dudes like Scourge to fight for her, which is not a bad idea at all. I'm kind of loving that system, not gonna lie to you. And finally, number 1, Scarlet Witch. No more mutants. We were all counting down the days until the end of WandaVision because we could finally, perhaps maybe see an evil Wanda Maximoff. And we did, and it was so good. She's the daughter of Magneto and the twin brother of Quicksilver, aka Pietro Maximoff. Now, she was on her father's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but at one point she did join the Avengers. So she's a little flippy-floppy. She's one of the biggest Marvel characters, and during the events of M-Day, she spoke those 3 words, and just like that, a mass amount of mutants were depowered, or worse, that large number being 986,618, only leaving a couple hundred depressed mutants left. Now, the end of episode 8 of WandaVision had fans pretty jazzed. Agatha Harkness refers to Wanda as the Scarlet Witch, finally, but she also references this chaos magic. What is this chaos magic? Well, Wanda in the comics got her powers through the old gods of chaos. So this god came to her the day she was born, not really a blessing, but rather it was done so that this chaos god could add to Wanda's powers and then later use her as a vessel that he could one day possess when she was fully grown. And we see this take place in Avengers issue 186. Now with WandaVision's ending, it seems like the MCU is going to start kind of leaning into this villain role for Wanda, because last we saw her, she was studying the Book of the Damned. There was ominous music, she was floating, doing some witch stuff. I'm excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'd love to see Elizabeth Olsen go dark. She's an amazing actor. Holy sh. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Mojo World. This first one sounds fun, like for a bit, but then it becomes a nightmare if you're actually there. Mojo World is an extra-dimensional and extra-temporal realm inhabited by these spineless ones. Their world is pretty unique. See, what happens is that the signals from Earth, be it radio or television, get distorted and sent through time to these spineless ones, and it happened early in their existence too. So now, the species loves televised entertainment, as do we. Who knows, maybe they're watching WandaVision season 4 right now. We never know, it's all crazy up there. They feared humans, but were in awe of them. Kind of like most humans. Like, I like Chris, but you know, you never know. You never know. There is a ruler, of course, there is a ruler, and his name is Mojo, and he produces movies and TV shows to keep the spineless ones entertained. Are you not entertained? Mojo World is an interdimensional world home to beautiful mountains, rivers, oceans, and of course, the occasional plasma storm. So bring your interdimensional umbrella and some popcorn because Mojo World is pretty weird yet entertaining. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, it really does wonders for our channel. You guys are the best, thank you so much. Now back to some more marvelous magical worlds. Number 9, Otherworld. Otherworld is a pocket dimension adjacent to Earth, and its purpose is to serve as a nexus to other dimensions within our reality and also other realities in the multiverse. So if you're guarding Otherworld, you're basically guarding the intersection between all of realities. No pressure. The Celtic powers of Otherworld match those of Asgard, which I will of course talk about later on in this list. And since it's a nexus between realities, there's a number of provinces that coexist on Otherworld, like Avalon and Dryador. See, some kingdoms have existed for quite some time, and others are still pretty fresh. At the center of Otherworld, we have the Starlight Citadel, the headquarters of the Omniversal Guardian, and it acts as this meeting point for all of these realities that I mentioned. It's beautiful. Number 8, the Dark Dimension. The Dark Dimension is also referred to as Subware, not somewhere, but Subware. It's actually where all of our subscribers come from, actually. No, I'm just kidding. The Dark Dimension first popped up in comics with Strange Tales issues 126. It's the place Dormammu and Umar were both banished to by the Faultine. See, it started off as this massive singular plane, but during a conflict, it was shattered into multiple planes, like the Splinter Realms or the Archipelago of Anguish and Redemption, which is fun to say. We of course see the Dark Dimension in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a void within the multiverse. The Masters of the Mystic Art managed to protect Earth from the Dark Dimension by building 3 sanctums, one in London, one in Hong Kong, and of course the one we all know the best, the one in New York, where Doctor Strange resides currently. I feel like we're not quite done with the Dark Dimension in the MCU, at least I hope we're not, because it's one of the coolest places I've seen. Aside from number 7, the Astral Plane. The Astral Plane is an alternate dimension that has an equivalent space to our own, where matter is composed of ectoplasm. We see Stephen Strange get popped into the Astral Plane in Doctor Strange, well, rather the Astral Dimension in that movie. See, it's a parallel dimension where the soul exists outside of its body, and to access it, you have to be successfully separated from your physical form, which isn't something that you do. You can't just sneeze and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what happened? Oh, bless you. Thanks. You're welcome. You have to exist in a pure energy form, so you might need a wizard or two. We see this plane in other Marvel properties as well, like in Black Panther, Eric Killmonger and the Black Panther are able to have a conversation with their deceased fathers, and when they wake up, it's like no time has passed at all. Well, that's because in the Astral Plane, time is slowed way down, so much so, in fact, that when Stephen Strange uses it, he's able to leave his body, have a conversation with the Ancient One, and then return to his body before his body even hits the ground. So blink and you just may miss it. Number 6, Nexus of all realities. The Nexus is a cross-dimensional gateway that provides a pathway to any and all possible realities. And I mean all of them, even the realities between realities. In its comic origins, it's actually unknown if some being created it or if it just happens to be the one place in the multiverse where all realities just happen to naturally intersect. And we see it for the first time in Fear issue 11. We see it in Man-Thing's swamp in Bywater, New Orleans. The ancestors referred to the area of the swamp called Darkwater as the nexus of all realities. So next time you take a dip in a swamp, you just might be not in our dimension anymore. So I don't know, maybe hold your breath, plug your nose. You don't know where you're gonna end up in that puddle. Number 5, Soul World. One of the many conversations I had with friends after we saw Infinity War for the first time was where exactly Thanos went after he snapped his fingers. It was this large orange paradise almost. It looked like the place where you fight Dark Link in Ocarina of Time, but with more orange. Just an opening, confusing area. Well, it turns out this was a brief look at Soul World. It was originally included in Avengers Endgame after Tony snaps his fingers, but it was deleted to avoid more Zelda flashbacks. No, Soul World is the dimension existing inside of the Soul Gem. So while Thanos was in this pocket dimension briefly, he spoke to a younger version of Gamora. And in the comics, Gamora learns about Soul World's decay because a fragment of her own soul was still trapped in Soul World. So with Gamora being the key that led Thanos to gaining this Infinity Stone, one could only hope that somehow she's still in there alive. Or maybe Black Widow, maybe? No? Please? Number 4, Hell. Hell is a world bound to the mind of its mistress and queen. Hela, ruler of the dead. The realm shifts by her will, its laws are ancient and her whims can twist those laws until they scream. Sounds lovely, let's do it, grab the kids, great. Valhalla is a realm of honor, Faerie is a realm of temptation, and Hell is the realm of trials. Is it weird that I low-key just want to poke my head into this room, into this trial room, just to see what it's all about, you know? The first time we see Hell in the comics is in Journey into Mystery issue 102, and it's one of the 9 realms, and it's of course one of the many realms of death. It's actually the final resting place for the dead of the 9 realms. That's your last stop on the tour de life in those realms. So the appearance and nature of Hell can alter depending on what its queen wants. Sometimes Hell is a pit, sometimes it's a nice gorgeous palace, and sometimes it's a puzzle box. It doesn't always mean this is a horrible haunted place with ghouls screaming in your ears. No, not at all. It's more so the final resting place for those in the 9 realms. But if you're a it surely won't be a paradise like Elysium. It's going to be a bit hotter and a bit more harsher. Number 3, Sakaar. The first time we see this beautiful, terrifying land is in the Planet Hulk storyline from 2006. Sakaar is the 4th planet from the star Teo, and it's the only planet within the Teo star system known to be inhabited by sentient life. Sakaar is considered a savage planet that is full of extremes, but it's the most diverse geologically. I mean, we got great deserts, tropical paradises, mountains, volcanoes, Arctic wastelands, lakes, oceans, you name it. During the height of the Spike War, a cosmic vortex opened up near the planet's orbit, causing tidal waves, and the inhabitants actually viewed this vortex as the end times. I mean, yeah, that's more than fair. Even in Thor Ragnarok, they referred to this portal as the Devil's Anus. So, yeah, okay. The Great Devil's Anus portal disappears and then reappears over time. And what it does is it spits out debris and exotic alien species from all over the universe. So that one sweater you just can't seem to find anymore, maybe your ex doesn't have it after all. Maybe it's just getting shot out of the Great Vortex and now Korg is wearing it. Number 2, Asgard. While it may not exist anymore in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Odin has even said that Asgard is not a place, it is in fact a people. Well, it was once a place, and it was a pretty spectacular place too. As described by Lady Sif in the first Thor movie, Asgard is millennia beyond you in our pursuit of science and knowledge, and we have learned that there are some things that can never be understood. It's a land where magic and science are one of the same things. And in the comics, it was first seen into Journey into Mystery issue 85. Asgard was sadly destroyed at the end of Thor Ragnarok when Loki unleashed Surtur to destroy the land while Hela was doing her thing getting stronger. Now the remaining survivors boarded a starship and now they live as fishermen in a small village called Tonsberg in Norway. So you never know, you could be living in a paradise in the sky and then now all of a sudden you're catching salmon. Life happens fast. And finally, number 1, Sanctum Sanctorum. Perhaps one of the most magical places in the MCU aside from Asgard, would have to be Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, which we see Thor make a brief pit stop to and accidentally messes it up with Mjolnir. It may just look like a normal fancy pants apartment in New York, but on the inside it's full of these wonderful ancient magic artifacts. It's actually the same place that Stephen Strange first gets his trusty cape. Now, the New York Sanctum is seen in the MCU in numerous timelines. We see the Ancient One protecting it during the events of Avengers Endgame, and Doctor Strange currently watches over it, located at 1778 Bleecker Street. And at one point in the comics, it was the headquarters of the Defenders and the New Avengers. So could we maybe see that in the movies? Hopefully, because there's a lot of room and there's only 2 dudes living there. Like, come on, rent's not cheap, guys. The first floor has the drawing room, library, living room, dining room, and Wong's kitchen. Sounds like a pretty good time. The second floor consists of a study, Doctor Strange's bedroom, Wong's bedroom, and multiple guest bedrooms, perfect for some new Avengers. And the third floor is composed of the meditation chamber, my personal favorite, the mystical library, and the storage area for occult artifacts. So when Wanda decides to let all the evil leave her, in the next Doctor Strange, maybe she can cozy up and take the top floor. Seems like those rooms are quite fitting.